The funny thing is, this is my dodgiest setup yet this year, and it looks amazing. Or amazing for chaotic Bibliophile standards. Hello everybody, I'm Oliver, and today my video is going to be a little bit inverted, because usually I guess I do currently reading finished books and then like a little book haul, but I will start with a book haul and then I will talk about what I'm currently reading, and then I actually have so many books to tell you about that I've read. So I'm really excited for this update. In case you don't know, I'm trying to do weekly updates. Obviously, that hasn't panned out every single week so far this year, but I'll catch up with this update, and then, hey, we'll play it by ear. So every Tuesday-ish, I try to update you on my bookish goings on. This time around, I'm in a hotel room, well, not hotel, apart hotel room in Sevilla, Spain. I've been traveling with my parents, so I apologize. I think the road is a bit noisy during the day, but I'll try my best. And yeah, I've been traveling with my parents through Spain, our first time. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And also my wife joined us for a little bit of the Sevilla part, and that was amazing. So yeah, lots of good stuff. Obviously some books in Spanish, we'll get to that, but first I actually recorded a little book haul before I traveled to show you all the books that I got during my honeymoon and some other stuff. So yeah, cut to past me. Hey, this is Oliver from the past, and I am in a bit of a rush, so I will speed through these books. However, I really wanted to show you because I've had some great bookshop outings recently. The first one was with my friend Danny, and we went to Jumble Books near Bethnal Green. It's an amazing charity shop owned by the Buddhist Center, so they work on donations. Their crowd, so well read, such interesting books. And so I got 4 actually. One of them was the Folio Society edition of Oscar Wilde's Salomé. Hey guys, Oliver from a little future in the past. It's Oscar Wilde's Salomé in this beautiful folio edition. This has engravings by Frank Martin, and it's newly translated by Vyvyan Holland, and obviously this is the play about Princess Salome and Yochanan the prophet. It's great. It has been turned into an opera by Strauss. It's really interesting. I really like reading it, even though it's like a bit of a wonky play. He wrote it in French. It was originally translated by Bosie. Not very well apparently, so I'm looking forward to this translation because I think I've only read Bosie's translation, which, you know, it was an interesting experiment. But yeah, it's this beautiful edition. I just really love it, and I'm glad I found it. I did also get these 3 books. I shouldn't have done this because it's such a big book, but I definitely want to read it in Feb and not take it with me to Chile, because it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, these are Michael Palin's Traveling to Work Diaries from 1988, 1998. I love reading journals, diaries, especially obviously if I like the person, or if I find the person interesting in some capacity, even if I dislike them, but like if their life is interesting or they write their journals in an interesting way. I haven't read his books yet, but I would like to. I think he's a great travel writer from what I know. And yeah, this sort of also maps onto some of his books, but it's a much more instantaneous snapshot. I'm sure he has a really interesting life, and it was £4, so I just couldn't leave it behind. I also found a secondhand copy of Daddy by Emma Cline. I really enjoyed The Girls, even though I thought it was flawed. I thought it was really interesting, and these are her short stories, all about, I think, sort of California, razor sharp stories, append the simplest of relationships. So that vibe, I'm really looking forward to it. And I also got American Pastoral by Philip Roth. I haven't read any Philip Roth, and I would like to change that. I don't know if he'll be my cup of tea, but definitely if I am going to read him, I'm going to read this and Operation Shylock, and yeah, there are a couple more ones that are like big, and those are the ones I would start with. And then obviously went on honeymoon with my wife, and we stopped by a few bookshops. First of all, we stopped by Bath Old Books, and there I got Rosamond Lehmann's Invitation to the Waltz. This is a Virago modern classic. It's about a young woman in rural England. I think England, yeah, maybe. Yeah, yes. It says rural middle class England, and she has an invitation to a party. I love stories about parties. I remember reading the description of the town, and I thought it was so sensory and interesting, and I was like, I need to get this book. Also there, although I don't have it here, Ishani got The Famished Road by Ben Okri, and I haven't read that, but it looks really good. It starts being very fable-like, about like beings that are sort of beyond humans but can't become humans. It's sort of souls before being born. That's all I know about it, but it looked really good, and Ishani wanted to read it, so she got it, and I'm sure I can borrow that copy at a later date. Then we also went to Persephone Books, which I love. They have a 3 for $40 on these like beautiful gray spines with the like little end papers and the matching bookmark. So Ishani got Operation Heartbreak by Duff earlier this year. Last year, later, let's say in December, we went to see Operation Mincemeat. Ishani had seen it before, but I hadn't. I cried. It's such a beautiful musical. It's so interesting because I think I've said I'm not very interested in World War II stories. And did I say World War II stories? But I found that one so interesting, such a compelling musical. Yeah, it had all the ingredients to make it great. And apparently this is one of the books that's based on, or like a big inspiration for the musical. So that's good. I mean, I'm sure it's based on was it Ben McIntyre? Like there's a history book, but this is sort of a book written at the time. And then I started all with Despised and Rejected by Roth Allatini, and this is a World War I novel, queer novel. It's about this soldier and his relationship with a man, and also his friendship with a woman who is also queer. And I haven't read The Well of Loneliness, but I know these two often get linked together, and I might read both this year, who knows. My big huge finding is Random Commentary by Dorothy Whipple. I haven't read any Dorothy Whipple yet. I know, shame. I will at some point, but this is a collection of entries from her journal. So again, all about diaries, all about journals right now. But this one in particular deals with writing and her life as a writer and meeting other writers, on top of being really good about craft. It's also really gossipy, and I love myself some literary gossip, so I'm really excited. I realize you probably can't read the titles, but they will all be written down in the description down below anyways. I will have to enter a book buy ban at some point this year, at many points this year, but it's okay. I just got married. We were going to bookshops. We were having a time, concretely the most amazing time ever. So I think it's okay to buy books in those instances. An addict trying to justify his actions. We went to Mr. B's, which I've said here, and I'll say it again, it's one of my favorite bookshops of all time. It's one of the best places ever, and I got amazing books there. I got The Sound of Utopia by Michel Krielaars, and this is translated from the Dutch by someone, it's here, Jonathan Reeder. This is published by Pushkin Press, which is amazing. Great to get some more nonfiction in translation. And this is what it says on the tin, which is Musicians in the Time of Stalin, all about classical musicians and their role as both like mouthpieces for the regime, but also like resistance. Obviously it talks about Prokofiev and Shostakovich, and I'm sure it's going to be great. And you know, I love my music books. I also got memoirs by Stefan Zweig, The World of Yesterdays, Memoirs of a European. Apparently, Stefan Zweig was very prolific, and I've read some of his fiction, but I feel like I need more. However, I am interested more in his period and all the people that he met. So I'm actually, I think, more interested, perhaps wrongly, but personally, I want to tackle his memoirs first. I just think I'm gonna love them a lot. And this is translated from the German by Anthea Bell. Yeah, what it says on the tin. I think this is obviously like mostly the first half. Oh yeah, mid-century Europe. Very good. The Sound of a Snail Eating by Elizabeth Toba Bailey. I thought it was a novel about the same thing the memoir is, so I'll just read you the blurb. While an illness keeps her bedridden, Elizabeth Toba Bailey watches a wild snail that takes up residence in a flower pot alongside her bed. As she enters the snail's microcosmic world, she comes to a greater understanding of her own confined place in the human world. So it's all the things I like. And then, just don't escape. I have 4 more, although one technically doesn't count because it's a collective book that my wife and I are sharing. Very aware of my book addiction. We're trying not to duplicate books, and we do book club. So we got this one book that we'll share, and it's The Safekeep by Yael van der Hoeden. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. It was one of my friend's favorite books of the year, and actually it's been a lot of people's favorite books of the year. So I'm actually reading this very soon. Yeah, I lied to you. I actually have 5 books. I'll go get the other one. This is The Hotel by Daisy Johnson, and I've already read this. I will wrap it up further along this video. But this is a novella / intercollected short stories, most of them centering women, though not all of them, surrounding this hotel, enchanted sounds positive, haunted space and territory with the hotel. They are very disorienting. They are interlinked, clearly interlinked. At first I wasn't that on board, but then the more I went into it, the more I liked it. It's very eerie, it's very also spectral in voice because it's all first-person narratives. This was written to be performed on Radio 4, so it definitely has that mark in it. Yeah, I will be talking more about this in this video specifically shortly. Big Kiss Bye Bye by Claire Louise Bennett. This was actually Ishani's pick, but I was so pleased because I've heard nothing but great things about Claire Louise Bennett generally, and also about this book in particular. And it's all about intimacy and tenderness and connection, apparently. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. This is our March pick. I'm so pleased this is being reprinted. Again, journals, travel writing, America Day by Day by Simone de Beauvoir. Simone de Beauvoir was traveling through America, and so she's like reflecting, annotating her journey. I'm really interested. Again, it has everything that I like in a book, and it's everywhere right now because it's gathered recently been reprinted by Vintage. And finally, this one I'm going to read so soon because I can't wait. It's Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. John Williams, the author of Stoner. I love that book. I've always wanted to check out his other books. He doesn't have that much. He wrote Augustus and a little novella about a man and his father, and Butcher's Crossing, which I would say is his second most famous novel. Some people prefer it to Stoner. I don't know if anything in my heart can top Stoner. This is about an academic guy who moves to the countryside to become, I want to say, a farmer, something like this. So kind of a reverse Stoner in a way. I can't wait. I love how he writes. Back to the present, the rest of the video. And we're back, and I hope you enjoyed that. And now I'll quickly move through 3 books. The first one, it's the just greatest story. It's Cosmos by Whittle Gombrowicz, translated from the Polish by Sergio Pitol. And here's the thing. Last year, spoiler alert, one of my favorite books was the Memory Trilogy by Sergio Pitol. I have no idea if this is translated to English. I will do some research when I do my best of 2025. But it's basically his journals and memoirs of it's 3 volumes. And throughout his life, and he was Mexican and he went to Europe, and he translated Gombrowicz. He earned his keep a lot as a translator. He then became an ambassador, I think, or like a diplomat. But yeah, he talked about it, and he really made me want to read him. I'd heard it's really dark. It's sort of a noir-ish book, but sort of a literary take on some of the tropes. The author himself has referred to this book as his darkest, like void, black tar, like book. So I'm really curious, but basically I searched for this in Santiago everywhere. I think it's out of print in Spanish. It's really hard to find in English as well. And it sort of became this thing that I might not even like this, but I just really, really wanted to check out. And so I found a friend had a secondhand book and they lent it to me, but I haven't gotten to it yet in English. But then I found this one on my first night in Madrid, and I was by myself at the time. Like my parents hadn't arrived. As I said, my wife just joined for Sevilla, so I was by myself, just walking around Madrid. First bookshop, I didn't even seek it out. I just found it, and I went in secondhand, less than €4. The first book that I grabbed was this one, and it just felt like seeing a friend when you're lost. I wasn't lost, but I don't know. It was just so good to find. So that was very exciting. And this name will pop up again later in my read books. But yeah. Then in Sevilla, at a secondhand bookshop, I found these diaries by Arcadi Espada. Basically, he is a journalist who decided to track the news and write about it and sort of reflect upon how journalists perform their occupation, how they write, how they report news. And yeah, it looks really good. It's very literary. It engages with language and again, storytelling and framing and all the good stuff that I love. And as a bonus, it's a journal, which I'm obsessed with right now. I hopefully might make a video about it, like life writing, memoirs, like generally. But last year I really got into journals, partly because of the Sergio Pitol book, and I haven't stopped. So yeah, there's more of that coming. And finally, moving into currently reading, I have The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector. This is a pocket edition, translated in Spanish, into Spanish, by Ana Polyak. I'm sure you've heard of Clarice Lispector. She was born in Ukraine, but she is rightfully so a Brazilian author, like one of the most famous ones. She it's quite disturbing. I've read Aqua Viva and really, really enjoyed it. This has tried my patience a bit, but that might be more on me than her, because it starts with sort of the writer, or with it sort of implies that it's a narrator versus like a character. Yeah, and it's talking about language and how you tell a story, and slowly the character is introduced. So I'm just curious to how it will progress. But as soon, no, it gripped me from the beginning. It's just, I don't know. I feel like after the first 10 pages of that, I was like, okay, when is the story actually starting? But I think that's part of the point. And it was good to like laugh about it and release some tension, even though it's also a weirdly intense book, because that's just how Clarice Lispector is. So I will report back next week about this one. But loving it so far. Just such amazing writing. I forgot to say I picked up that Lispector book at a tiny, I don't know if it's like a little chain, because I'd seen a couple of locations in Sevilla, but maybe it is independent, but it's like it's got a couple of locations. But yeah, it's called La Botica de Lectores, or para lectores, which is basically like the pharmacy for readers. And even though I understand why some people might think that is a bit corny, I personally really love the concept. Let's just start with the books I've read, because there's a lot. And also, oh my god, again, if this continues to be how it is, this will be my best reading year. Not just because I'm reading loads, because that's just a matter of time, but the books that I'm reading, oh my god, so many bangers. Already I could make a top 10 books of the year off of this month alone. So I finished I Remember by Joe Brainard. Oh my god, this was so good. So basically, this is a exercise, let's call it, poetic exercise that artist and writer Joe Brainard devised, where he just says I remember and then goes on. And obviously it looks improvisatory, but I think it's said in the introduction. It has two introductions, one by Olivia Ling and one by Paul Auster. Both are great. But it said that that's an illusion, that he actually worked quite hard at it, and it's very deliberate and precise. And you can also tell because the flow between themes is just so smooth. And he talks about everything here: sex, childhood, religion, some art, surprisingly not that much, more about feelings and the city. Very Frank O'Hara, obviously, who he actually mentions. But he also talks so much about queer desire and desire in general. It's such a sensory book, so erotic at times, but also so funny, quite out of left field. I think the best word for it is incantatory. It just pulls you in and makes you savor every little vignette. Some of them are 2 sentences long, some of them are jokes, some of them are long scenes, and oh my god, it's quite impactful. I will say, my one thing is his politics obviously seem in the right place, but he does use language that is quite uncomfortable from a contemporary perspective, I would say, him being a white man. But yeah, I just think I should mention it just because it's important to talk about. But it didn't fully take me out of the narrative, but it did at times. It just sort of jumped out to me, and I was suddenly thinking about that instead. Ultimately, I think he was an okay guy. And the book is amazing, so I do recommend it. Then the next book is Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. I finally read the second book in the Southern Reach tetralogy now. It used to be a trilogy when I bought these books secondhand. Now it's a tetralogy. Yeah, I read Annihilation, I think last year. Did I reread it? Maybe 2 years ago I reread it. And I loved it. It's about, basically, there is an area in the United States that is like a mystery area. It's called Area X. No one knows what's going on. It's quite Lovecraftian, very mysterious. People who go, forget, reality starts to shift. The landscape, they call it like a topological event. Things don't make sense. It's very hard to explain, but also I commend Jeff Vandermeer, because what you're trying to do here basically is, how do you convey what you can't explain? How do you recreate the experience of a brain not grasping reality and getting confused and not understanding? How do you do these things without over explaining, without like just getting the reader there? The first one is about an expedition that goes to this area, and the second one is the follow-up to that expedition from the perspective of one of the agency guys who is questioning one of the 3 out of 4 survivors for that expedition. So far, there are not a lot of answers, and this does feel like a second book in a trilogy, but it was so entertaining. And I actually tried to read it right after I reread Annihilation. I was like, let's go with Authority. And I wasn't feeling it. But this time I picked it up because I really wanted to. And oh my god, it blew me away. And so likewise, while I was reading, I was like, I'm going to read the next one. And I just didn't feel like it afterwards. But I might read it in March, probably. Really, really love this. If you like weird fiction, but also literary fiction, obviously you can't go wrong with Jeff Vandermeer. Another weird book I read was The Hotel by Daisy Johnson, and this is my first Daisy Johnson, although I really, really want to read Sisters. I own that one. But yeah, this is a really short book. It's less than 200 pages. It's a collection of interlinked short stories, and properly interlinked, as in some characters do occur, which I think is the better interlinked short stories. I mean, it's okay if, I don't know, it depends obviously, but yeah, this is all talking about a hotel and place and sort of the evilness of place once an atrocious act has been committed there. It focuses mostly on women, not exclusively, but most of them are, and obviously it's all tied to the original act was people burned or killed a witch because they thought she was a witch, and from there it starts like all these different experiences that have parallels in, weird friendships and workplace harassment and all of that. But that makes it sound like it's drier and it like has a message. It really doesn't. It's really enjoyable. It's quite easy reading, easy to get into it. Very, yeah, just engrossing, very just atmospheric, perfect for winter kind of vibe. I will say it does have this quality meant to be recited, read aloud, and you can tell it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing of the book that you might want to consider listening to it, because apparently it was superbly performed. But yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed it, and I will continue reading Daisy Johnson. Next one, another one that I would be shocked if it wasn't in my top books of the year at the end of this year, is Revolutionary Acts by Jason Okundaye. And the subtitle for this nonfiction book is Love and Brotherhood in Black Gay Britain. And it's exactly that. It's a hybrid oral history combined with not proper history, but traditional narrative history of Black gay men and culture in Britain, especially Brixton, but all over as well. Oh my god, I can't even begin to explain how fun but also illuminating this was. Basically, Jason Okundaye is in the introduction talking about archiving and archives and how archives are so often lost, and especially with Black queer culture, Black culture in general, but queer Black culture even more so. So much is being lost to gentrification and sanitization of history. He really wants to fight that, so he approaches these iconic Black gay men and talks to them and asks for their stories and crafts a narrative that is so nuanced, so multifaceted, that grasps with the good, the bad, the life. He says he's not interested in presenting these men as saints, but he also doesn't want this to be a book that focuses on misery, because there was so much exuberance and joy and resistance. He really wants to emphasize the pleasure and the play of it all. It's just so good. It's so engaging. In my story graph, I said it's so rare that a book that is so vital and important, it's also so fun to read. It's so gossipy at times. And he talks about it and he acknowledges it's all very much on the surface in terms of, this is my historical project. It's to preserve these voices and I'm just gonna let them shine. And he just wants to sort of channel all of it into a great book. I think I need to take a break because we might be finally going out into the day. I have like 4 more books to tell you about, so I will be back. But yeah, I hope you are enjoying the video so far. I don't know why I'm acting like you are going to take a break. Maybe I should put like a little break.